Mhm, oh, yeah, so much of things that we need to see about. Surely I do have to spell them out. Cause you know as well as I do, the only way is put in more effort and less play. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come let us put hand in hand because this is our land. So come let us work hand in hand because this is our land and we have a responsibility, a duty to make it better, not just for us, but for the next generation and the next generation. They will thank us for laying a solid foundation for their takeoff. I want to welcome you to the hub. Again, we have a unique moment in time to deliberate, to talk, to converse. I want to encourage those on YouTube and Facebook to please share the live. Sharing is caring. I want to start off tonight by saying I was rather encouraged when I went within my own vicinity to get a haircut moments ago. And the wife of the individual said to me, Kem Jones, they opened the place down there already. So what do you mean by that? She said to me she wants to get registered. She said if she never voted in her life before, she voted now. She ready to vote because the government is doing a lot. The government is at work. And the barber said a similar thing to me. But only today, earlier today, two friends who I never thought would be interested in voting, in participating, said a similar thing to me. So it is clear that more and more Grenadians are seeing the light. More and more Grenadians are appreciating what the government is doing and continue to do. And one thing that is very clear or that is very obvious is that they understand that the government cannot do everything at once. But the mere fact that they are doing, they appreciate that. If you follow social media, you will see the ministers of government. You will see the MPs. You will see them out there in the field, engaging the constituents, listening to the constituents, and doing work, building roads, building drains, helping with housing, helping with education, helping with agriculture, helping in so many ways. I want to say here that I am proud of the team. I am proud of the most honorable Deacon Mitchell and his team. They're doing a marvelous job, step by step by step. Because you see, we are not accustomed to accountability
when it comes to governance, when it comes to a party being in power and governing the country. Because the NNP was there, but they were never accountable to the people. They were above everybody else. In fact, they were revered in some instances and feared by a lot of people in some instances, because there was this big barrier between the people and the ministers of government, the people and the prime minister. They were not approachable. They were not relatable. They were not connecting with the people. But they knew the formula to get reelected. And I have said so on this program. It's not that the NNP was popular. It's not that the NNP was likable. It is not that the NNP was viable. It is not that Keith Mitchell was this popular leader. No. It was just the formula that they used. The NNP was not operating like NDC. NDC continues to govern every day, every week, every month, every year. They continue to do work and deliver to the people. But the NNP, once they are elected, they would do some things in the first year to a year and a half, and then they would just pause. Nothing much would take place. And then they would let 2-3 years lapse. And when it's closer to the election, the 4th year into the 5th year, or the 3rd year into the 4th year, then they start doing things for votes, in my belief. And they would keep their people dependent, poor, and vulnerable. And once you're poor and you're vulnerable, you would do anything. And that is what the NNP was doing to the people of this country, in my belief. They kept them in that situation. So, material assistance, that was closer to the election. A road being built, a drain being built, someone being dragged into the New Imani training program or some other program, that was a wrong election. It was all for the vote. And that formula worked until it expired, until people start reading up, following up, exposing themselves to greater things. And they start to see the light. But that is how the NNP operated. They had the formula. They knew what to do to win an election, not to transform a country, not to better the communities or your families or your home or the country in a whole. That is why they left everything to run down. That is why the police stations were not even refurbished. That is why there was no police headquarters. They promised them that police headquarters years and years ago. They never focus on that. That is why the medical stations and clinics and so on run down. They never focus on that. Community centers and playing fields and basketball courts and netball courts and so on. They never focus on that. Paying off the pension and regularizing workers and making them permanent and that kind of thing. They never focus on that. They had almost $100 million every year going to their supporters through social safety net programs. So the debushing program was a big thing for them. A big thing. Giving their supporters a fortnight on the side of the road, or 2, or a contract. The seed program, giving their supporters the $450 or the $400 or the $300. That was a big thing for them, just to get the votes, in my belief. The back to school voucher, giving their supporters that, right? The burial assistance and other things like that. The housing assistance program. So it was geared towards making their supporters happy, but keeping them poor. That is why they still remain in using a pit latrine or an open bathroom, or having no roads, or no light, or no running water, or no internet access in their home. They kept them poor and vulnerable and dependent. And that was the formula. And when election time came about, they had to go in the rally, or else they're not getting what they used to get. That is what they were doing to these people. They had to follow them. They had to go out and vote for them. That's how they functioned for all of these years. So it was not that they popular or they likable or they were viable or they, no. Nope. I mean, you can look at the NDC of the past. We can still look at them and say, well, they tried a number of leaders and it just didn't work. They just didn't break through. And then when they got the opportunity, they were infiltrated by the same elements of NNP, in my belief. And tutus, they came back. You see? So we can look at them too. But at the end of the day, don't believe that the NNP was this strong party and viable and winning. No. They had a formula that they used. And that was the formula. They recognized in a constituency where 5,000 people are registered, all they needed was 2,501. They don't need all the rest. And they would go as far as 2,550. And they just make these people happy. Giving them housing assistance, giving them poor relief assistance, giving them the back to school vouchers, giving them the debushing program, giving them all of these things. Putting their grandmothers and mothers under the seed program. So they kept that block happy and the others, to hell with them. That is what the NNP administration did, in my belief, over all the years. And they kept these people loyal to them. So when election time came about, it was easy. Just pick them up, bring them on, vote, and that kind of thing. After a while, the people get fed up with who were there as leaders and who were, because they became swell-headed, complacent, and they thought that they were demigods. So it was a formula they were using. They were not developing country. They were not interested in that. They were not interested in institutional strengthening and making sure that Grenada is on the right path. That Grenada can, become a little Singapore. They were not interested in that. And they never maintained anything. Everything was just left to run down. Run right down. The stadium. Look at the stadium. NDC came into power, and again the Chinese had to come and renovate the stadium. Same thing. Just kept the people poor and vulnerable. Even their supporters, they placed in the Chinese houses in Dabo. And they told them, well, every month you have to pay this amount of money. But when a lot of them, right, so let us make it clear, a lot of them were not paying. But there were one or two of them who paid. And when time to get the house, to get the apartment, they can't get it. And then we discovered Nothing was put in place to give these people ownership for the apartment, even if some of them were paying. But the majority of the NNP supporters, they were not paying. And they just left the building to run down. Look at the amount of millions Housing Authority has to spend to renovate, to upgrade, and to get the place back to where it's supposed to be. Someone sent me a picture. Well, a message first saying, look, they were able to complete the payment for the apartment in Corinth, $55,000. And they now own the apartment. And they have a plan for the building, right? And they have ownership. They have a letter of ownership. That's their property. And that family happy, very happy, thanks to the NDC, making them own something. Generational wealth being created. The NDC is different, totally different. And that is what you want in a government who would give you an upward push, not a hand out, but a hand up. So again, people are testifying. People are sharing their sentiments or their feelings, and they're very happy with the performance of this government. And we have to support them. We have to encourage them because we want them to succeed. Because if they succeed, then Grenada succeeds. Then our family succeed. Then you will succeed. So let us continue to support the NDC. Let us continue to support our beloved Prime Minister and the team because they need your support. Because don't believe that the NNP not planning all kind of stuff. The NNP, they're concocting all kind of stories because they know Grenadians like to consume a lot of information. You know, I was in a particular space and a gentleman turned around to me and he said, you didn't see that on YouTube? You didn't see that on Facebook? I said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And then it dawned on me that a lot of people cannot even identify fake from real. Yes, they use the smartphones. Yes, they have access to the internet. They use YouTube. They use Facebook or X or Instagram. But they are not tech savvy. They are not so educated to discern, to identify truth from falsehood. So information will come on their phones and they would buy it wholesale. They will believe it. And then I would turn around and say, no, that's false. That's not true. That's AI generated or some kind of malicious sponsored stuff in circulation. So there are still a lot of people who cannot identify whether something is fake and the source, who is spreading it. You realize that the NNP, for example, when they do their stuff, they're paying to sponsor it on Facebook or YouTube, so it's popping up, even if you don't want to view it. Some of the caretakers and so on, they're paying to sponsor it. So it pops up even if you're not clicking. So you might be scrolling through and it just pop up. It pops up. And then sometimes they pay to spread. There are pundits and surrogates and who would pay to spread false stuff. And in this day and age, you have to really know to know. That's how people would say it. You have to really know to know that it's fake. and that it's not genuine because things come on your phone every day. There are people who send me stuff and I just don't open it, Period. I just don't open it. Sometimes I'm going through Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or so on, and I know it's fake. I can see it. It's fake. There's a lot of things that are fake out there. So we are up against that, the misinformation, the false information in circulation. And they know that. They know that people, sometimes people come in and show you stuff and you say, but, oh God, you can see that it's fake. You can see that's not real. But they still believe it and they buying it wholesale. And sometimes the work that one has to do to cause them to believe otherwise, to make them know that it's fake and it's not real. Sometimes a lot of work because they are already indoctrinated, they already believe. I met NDC supporters and they believe what the opposition forces are actually saying about some of the ministers of government, some of our people. They believe. And then I start saying, but have you seen the evidence of corruption or the evidence of wrongdoing? Have you seen any evidence? And then they say no. But I say, why do you believe? Because they keep hearing it over and over and over again. So it saturates the minds of our people. And this could be very, very dangerous. And that is why I'm saying we have to support our MPs, support our Prime Minister, support the team. And you have to be able to discern, to choose wisely, to listen wisely to certain sources, to certain programs. Because some people would fall for those lies, especially if they're hearing it regularly. There are people who listen to Jenny's program, NDC supporters, and they get all wrapped up with all of these falsehoods that come from that program, in my belief. And then you say, but how do you do it? How do you tolerate it? How do you listen to this woman? And why? Why? Because it can have a damaging effect on you. And it makes you start doubting your party, your member of parliament, and the team without evidence, without facts. That is why some people come to me and say, I don't want to hear. I am not interested. I am not interested. I don't want to hear you. And you ain't hear that, and you ain't hear that, and I want to say that, and I see that, and I say, I don't want to hear you. I just don't. Some of our supporters, I don't want to hear you. Because you should know better. If you are a supporter of the NDC, if you are a supporter of any member of parliament on the government side, or a beloved prime minister, if you support him and you love him and you appreciate him, you need to be able to say, I'm not listening to Jenny's program, or I'm not listening to Sheldon's program, or I'm not listening to X and Y program. You have to be able to do that. Or I don't want to hear. There's some people who just like gossip, who love misinformation, scandal, sensationalism, drama. They love that, and they love to bring it to you. And whoever brings news to you will take news from you. Stay away from these people. Stay away from them. We have to become so wise in the politics that we can discern truth from lies, authentic stuff from the fake stuff, and understanding the source of your information, your source. Because in this day and age of artificial intelligence, it can take my voice and produce all kind of stuff with it. And it would even cause the person to be asking, but I wonder if that's me. Even if it's not me, it can take your head, your face, and do all kinds of stuff with it. So you have to become wiser in the politics as we forge ahead, as we move ahead. We have to support the team. We have to be so loyal that we go all out for the team. We defend the team, cost it what it may. That's important. Very important. Because you see, the opposition forces, they are accustomed with their lies. They are accustomed with their propaganda. They are accustomed concocting scandals and all kinds of stories to make the NDC look bad, to make the government look bad, to make certain ministers look bad. They're good at that. They're very good at it. And they would spend time and resources on it. And once it gets out there and it starts circulating, to get it back under control, it will take a lot. A lot. So they're fully aware of that. And there are a lot of people who just love gossip, love misinformation. They run with every scandal, every old talk, every brango. I remember over the weekend, I confronted a good friend. I said, but you saying that? That's not true. I said, it's not true. I said, where do you get that from? From who? And they can't say. The individual said to me, well, the school feeding program closed down, and it is in all them schools. I said, tell me one school that you closed down in. One school. Can't tell me. And you will be dealing with that kind of thing more and more as the election gets closer. But they would not come to you, the opposition forces, the haters of progress. They will not come to you to talk about anything positive. See, like tonight, I went to get a trim, and the wife of the barber said, she said, Kem Jones, if I ain't vote any time before, I vote you now. She said, they woke in. Said the government woke in. Said she's impressed. Said, look, they build roads, they do this, they fix the medical station. In other words, the opposition forces will not come to you and say, well, my son or my nephew is a police officer and now collecting $700 more on his salary. They will not come to you and tell you that. They will not come to you and tell you, well, my daughter is a nurse and she's now collecting $500 more on her salary. They will not come to you and tell you that. They will not come to you and tell you, well, my uncle is a doctor and is collecting $1,000 more on his salary. They will not come to you and tell you that. They will not come to you and tell you that the basketball court and the netball court in the community is now lit and was renovated, upgraded, modernized. They will not tell you that. They will not tell you that the playing field in the community is lit and some work was done to upgrade it and to bring it up to standard. They will not tell you that. They will not tell you that the community center was refurbished and meetings are now held there and games are now being played there and people in the community are being taught different things there. They will not tell you that. They will not tell you that the police station was refurbished or that a new school is being built in this parish or that a good piece of road was constructed or a piece of drain was constructed or there is some program in place for young people or that the bi-monthly salary payment is working nicely or that the pensioners got their pension and that they continue to collect the pension on a monthly basis. They will not come to you and tell you that. They will not tell you that, a neighbor or 2 or 3 in the village got a modern bathroom and toilet facility or got some material to repair their home or got a brand new house. They will not tell you that. They will not tell you about some initiative of government. They're not interested in that. They're interested in negativity. That's all. Scandal, misinformation. That is what they're interested in. When I wake up in the morning, I go for a jog, run, walk. And when I get back, I would take one of my AirPods, put it in my ears, and I would listen to something motivational or to good Christian music. Just to set the tone, to remain positive, to remain optimistic, to remain progressive in my thinking, in my thoughts. I would have a coffee or some bush tea. Then I would listen to a couple of programs. I would read the news regionally, follow things international, to just be abreast. And I would make a commitment for the day. Today I will do this. Today I will be this. Today I just don't want negativity around me. Negative energy, bad spirit. And there are certain people you just avoid. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. Because you know what they're coming with already. In the politics, you have to be like that. You have to become so disciplined that what they're saying don't move you. You're so loyal, so committed, so focused. It don't move you. You continue with the mission. And you keep your eyes on the prize. That's commitment. That is what we want. That is what should be. But you have to understand the environment that you exist in. This political environment is torturous. It's dangerous too. Because a lot of misinformation is out there. A lot. Because they want you to kind of lose your way and to see the NDC in a different light. They're not getting that. But they will not stop. They will not stop at it. Do you know how much people come to me or send me messages? Do you know how much people call me on a daily basis? Or message me? I'm telling you. It's a lot. So I now have to be wise enough to say, nah. Because if I take in, sometimes when I have messages, sometimes for days I ain't respond to them, and I'm doing so to save my mental health. Some people may say, but why you respond to me? Sometimes days, and then I respond. I try my best to respond, but sometimes it can wear you down, it can beat you down. It can take a toll on you. Because there are so many people out there who just don't understand. The opposition wants to be in government. They're pundits, they're surrogates, they're zygotes, they're sycophants. They want to be in government. That's what they want. They want to be prime minister. They want to be ministers of government. They want big work too. They want to be this and they want to be that too in government. Once you understand that, you know where to start. All these opposition people, those haters of progress, those agents of deceit and wickedness, once you understand that they want what the NDC has, once you understand that they want what the ministers are enjoying, they want to travel too. They want to have a good salary too. They want to drive in big car too. They want to live the life too. Don't fool yourself. They want that. And they will do anything to get it. Some of them would go as far as deep their hands in iniquity with the hope that they would get it. Some of them are that desperate. Don't put it aside. They're that desperate. They're evil. When I wake in the morning, I would bleach down my padlocks because, I'm fenced where I live. I would bleach it down, Bleach down the padlocks and bleach down the locks. I'm telling you, they're evil. When I go certain places, I watch them, And some of them playing friends with you too, They could become your worst enemies. Dangerous. Because they're desperate. They want what the NDC has. They want what the government has. They want to be prime minister too. They want to be ministers too. They want to be these things too. Once you understand that, you're good to go. Sometimes I go in settings and they're talking and I just can't hear. I can't hear. And the mere fact that I have been out here for the last 10 years, 11 years, it says a lot. I've been able to navigate them and survive, still be here. So you have to know, you have to understand they want that. They want it too. So you hear them talking about travel. You hear them talking about the prime minister residence. You hear them talking about this salary and that this. They're jealous. They're envious. They're greedy. It is what it is. And once you understand that, when they come, some of them talking, yes, they're opening their mouth, but I'm not hearing them. I can't listen to them. I cannot take them in. Because they're not genuine. They're not sincere. They're not speaking from a good place. They're not. And you ask them, you say, but every damn time you come and you're speaking to me, just some negative. There's an NDC individual. Every time I'm in town, he will come by Ricky's shop there and he start with the stupidness. So one day I say, okay, I will do for you. I will do for you. Proper. You walk it up. By the time you reach, he say, but say, I don't want to hear you tonight, I ain't want to hear today. I say, I ain't want to hear you. You ain't opening mouth yet. Say, I ain't want to hear you. He felt bad. But I'm glad he did. He never came back, I said, I don't want to hear you. You always say, this minister and that minister, and they should do that. And then I said, I don't want to hear you, boy. I ain't want to hear you. It just wear you down. It beats you down. And I ain't seen that one. And I ain't seen that. And I ain't seen it. And I ain't getting this. And they do this. And the man ain't opening mouth as he come up the step by the Indian story. I say, I ain't want to hear you today. I ain't want to hear you. That was it. That was it. So sometimes you have to become that type of person. So disciplined that you just don't want to hear. Because you're dealing with an opposition who is hungry for power, desperate for power. But look at them. You ain't seen them doing anything in the community. No, those opposition MPs, you ain't seen them doing nothing in the community, nothing in the constituency. In fact, even Keith Mitchell, that old jagabat, used words to the effect on MTV. Well, we can give materials, we can build the house, because we're in opposition, we're not government. And that's how they think. Use words to that effect. That's how they function. They think that way. They're in opposition, they can't do anything. Government. So they're not doing anything in the constituencies. Nothing. All they want is power. To come into power, and then they go flood. Then they go do all kind of, they go show off, they go, that's all they want. You go and knock their door. Go and knock one of them door. And tell them that your gas go now. They ain't opening. You're not going to see them. Even if they're in the house, they're cutting off the light. They might even let go the dog on you. Go and knock their door and tell them your gas go and you want help. If they're in power, man, they're giving you that in no time. So only when you're in government you could do that? Come on. You go and tell them you need milk for your child. Or something. Go. Tell them. They're not doing anything in their constituencies. Look at Peter David, for example. Just look at Peter. Yeah, he might be an outgoing personality, but only if you go in the court and you're in some kind of stupidness, he might step in. But you go and beg and beg and beg. One or two people might be able to get something from him. Yeah. Go and beg now. Emlyn Pay. When last you see Emlyn Pay? You could go and beg Emlyn Pay. You go and ask her for anything. You see her doing anything in her constituency? Kate Lewis. Or Kate Peters or whatever they call her. When last you see her? What you doing in her constituency? Huh? Or Keith Mitchell or Clarice Modest? When last you see these people doing things in their constituency? Nothing. And the people will not hold them accountable. Because all they're saying, they're opposition and they don't have, go to the government and go. So only when they're in government they could do something. We have to call it out. But they're desperate for power. They want power. And they will do anything to get it. Anything. But be very careful with the information that you consume, that you take in. Become disciplined. And you have to be sometimes skeptical with certain people, They'll be skeptical. Let them think that you wed. Sometimes. People call me regularly. People see me. They want to talk. I listen. But some of them I'm very, very skeptical. With them, I'm telling you. Because you see, outside here, everybody wants the party in power wins. Well, or a party wins, gets into power, then they become, all of a sudden, there is one who I personally know. She whole family is NNP. And not now, long. All of them. Her grandmother died. NNP. All the way up. Mother, sister, every one of them, NNP. You know the woman called me? She said, Cam Jones, well, you know me? I say, yeah. She said, well, I vote for all you, She said, but I'm looking for some assistance, and all the way I turn, I can't get the assistance. You could speak to that one for me and that one for me. And I say, okay. I say, all right. And all of them want this minister number and that minister number. They want to talk to that minister. And during the NNP time, they NNP, But they still couldn't speak to the ministers during that time. You hear me? And I say, you trying to fool me? I'm a street kid. I grew up on the streets and I'm raga. I tough. I understand that life. You can't trick me. Might be able to trick somebody else. But that's how all of them, all of a sudden, they turn and they become this and they become that and they voted for that. But how the hell you voted for this person and they only win by this amount of votes? How? How is that possible? We're trying to fool. So they come like that too. They know how to fake it. They know how to lie. They know how to deceive you. You have to be politically savvy to understand, to know. Not everybody who say Lord, 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 Lord is genuine and they really need help. Or else if you leave from this point to the next point, you'll be broke. You might become them begging. I'm telling you. So you have to understand the environment that you're existing in. The NNP, the opposition, they want power. They're desperate. And they will do anything for it. And a lot of misinformation is out there. A lot. Sometimes you have to say, but you tell me, well, that one corrupt and that one corrupt. And can you put forward a shred of evidence? Just a little evidence to support what you're saying. So if you say to me that somebody steals something, do you have a camera or video evidence or photo? Or you say somebody said X, Y, and Z, do you have an audio? Do you have a recording? Do you have what do you have? Or what if 5 people or 6 people were there, 3 people? Can they say the same thing? Can they swear on an affidavit that this is what took place? Where's the evidence? Because anybody could accuse anybody. Anybody could say X and say Y. It's easy. But you must have evidence to support your position. Yes, nowadays there is a proliferation of FM stations and everybody have, like a radio or some cell phone you could pick up and the radio to listen and the cell phone you could call and say anything about anybody. But the moderator has to be responsible and knowledgeable enough to control the shows. But there are some who just allow you to just say anything about anybody. And they don't care. They don't care. But you must have evidence. Can't just say anything about people. And then there are people who say, well, the man did not take the person to court. So the person guilty. So they're saying to you that the accuser is not responsible for proving that the accused is guilty or committed a crime or did something wrong. So a person accusing you of something, they don't have to prove that you do it. But you must prove that you did not do it. That's what they're saying, Because some of these people believe that they're smart. Everybody else went to school in August or in July, and they went in September. So a person comes and accuses me of something, but your humble servant has to prove that what the person said about me is wrong, not the person. How that could be fair? How that could be fair? And then you have people say, well, if he ain't take her to court, then he guilty. If he ain't take her to court, if he ain't make lawyer writer, he guilty. What the hell wrong with all you? Something wrong with all you? How that could be right? A person wake up with a bad self and decides, well, they would accuse that person of wrongdoing, something wrong. They would say that person corrupt, or they take bribe, or they thief, or whatever. But they have not provided or proved or put on the table any evidence to show that that person took bribe or corrupt or thief or do something wrong. They never did that. They just talk it, say X and say Y. But the person who they accuse of taking bribe or corrupt or stealing, that person must prove that they're innocent. How that could be fair? How that could be right? What's wrong with all you? That's how the society became or become. I mean, I'm shocked because there are some people who believe that the accused must prove their innocence and not the accuser proving that the accused is guilty. In a court of law, the accuser must prove that the accused is guilty by putting forward the evidence to substantiate that accusation or that claim. It is simple as that. If you bounce my car, I must be able to say you bounce my car. Because call the police comes, take the statement on both ends. If you accept liability, different. But if you bounce my car, there is evidence because the police came, or maybe where you bounce my car, you have a video camera there and it records. So like, for example, if a person comes outside of my house, I don't have to be here, but it records the person from all angles. Even if you're in the road where I live. Yes, it's fenced, but if you're walking in the road, the camera will capture you. Even you're way down because you don't have a yard, a lawn area there. Even if you're way down there, it captures you. And it records you. So I have evidence. So if I say that you were here, I have evidence to prove that you came here. That's how it's supposed to be. You have to prove. If I accuse you of something, I must prove that you are guilty. But you open your mouth, and the people are opening their mouth. You have to understand why they're opening their mouth, why they're accusing the person, why they're going after the person. Because they want power. They want to get where the person is. They want to occupy that seat. You have to understand these things. Once you understand these things, you're good to go, you know. So a person speaks. You want to find out what? Why? Why they're speaking? Why they're accusing that person? Why they saying X and Y? And why they're doing so without evidence? Why? Why they want to damage a person's good name and character without evidence? What is the gain? What is the end game? They want to get into power. It is simple as that. You have to understand the source. The person who disseminates, the host, the person who disseminates the information. Why? And once you understand these things, you're good to go, people. So this woman comes out, she says X, Y, and Z, and you say, okay, all right. But you're accusing this man, but you have no evidence. No evidence in 2025. In this day and age, no evidence. You don't put no evidence on the table. But you have people who saying, well, if he ain't take her to court, he guilty. If he ain't come out and defend himself, he guilty. Hold all you. What's wrong with all you? Huh? What's wrong with you all? So he has to come out and prove his innocence. You have to prove that the man is guilty. Put the evidence on the table and prove that. That's what it's supposed to be. So you have to understand where the information comes from and who spreading it, who disseminating it, and why they're doing so. What is the end game? What do they want to achieve at the end of it all? Because they're hungry for power. They're desperate for power. They want it bad, bad, bad. And they will do anything to get it. Anything to get it. But it is on the accuser to prove that the accused is guilty of something, not the other way around. Not the other way around. So we have to become so mature, so wise in this political environment that we can discern. We can say, nah, boy, that ain't song right. You say the man raped you, but the man has to come and prove that he did not rape you. You have to prove that the man raped you. Yes, you have to prove that. So then you go to doctor, they test, they get, whatever inside of you or whatever. And, or maybe there is some video recording of, force or whatever. Or there were people there and you said no, and whatever. All of these things. You see? Evidence. You have to prove the thing. And I am saying you have to understand the source, the people who are spreading the information. Once you understand that, you're good to go. And lastly, as Anna is saying, and I agree with Anna, we need our people, our supporters, to defend our people. And I have said so on umpteen occasions. We have to defend our party, defend our government, defend our political leader, defend our beloved prime minister, and defend the ministers of government and the team. Cost it what we need to defend them consistently so, and promote the good things that they're doing throughout the different constituencies. Folks, I want to wish you all the best. Have a wonderful night. Bye for now.